The Zelda Ocarina of Time remake is going to be so much more than just a basic remake. This is going to be a very big and a very important remake. Ocarina of Time is debatably one of the best video games of all time in general, whereas a lot of people also do say it's just the best Zelda game of all time. But what really is the Ocarina of Time remake going to be? Are there going to be new story elements? Is the lore going to be expanded deeper? Are we going to get more stories or backstories into some of the characters? The gameplay, 100%, I think without a doubt, is going to be enhanced a lot. The controls are going to be a lot better. We're going to have different controls, I'm sure. I would imagine some additional like combat features and stuff as well. But other than that, what specifically will this game be like on a deeper level? Before we hop into that, please subscribe to the channel. Help me reach my goal of 10,000 subscribers. We are so close, guys. Let's see if we get today's goal of 10 subscribers. Let's hop right into it. So something that is interesting is I do believe over the last, few years, Aonuma has actually mentioned Ocarina of Time a couple of times. He has definitely been asked about Ocarina of Time. I do think that there was a Game Informer magazine from a while back, around the Tears of the Kingdom time, I think, where he was basically asked about Ocarina of Time, and he apparently did not really give a comment on it, just kind of like chuckled, which I'm gonna take that as he pretty much knew this remake was happening, that they're working on it, because Ocarina of Time was the big Zelda game that pushed Zelda into a 3D world game series and really pushed the boundaries on the N64 in my opinion. So obviously on the surface level, it is a remake, so that means it's overall gonna be the same, I guess, game as Ocarina of Time, just in a modern day sense, which does open the possibility of them adding a lot to this game. And now the things that they would add would not take away from the overall storyline. It wouldn't take away from the original game. It's just to make it a little bit different. It's just to kind of separate it from the original game or even the 3DS version to kind of push the boundaries even more. I really hope that this game does show us a lot of the capabilities of the Switch 2, honestly. One of the descriptions of this game said timeless gameplay, which a lot of people were kind of like conflicted on what that really means. Like some people take that as it's not really going to be anything different, and some people do take that as it's going to be just similar but enhanced. Something that we do know from Aonuma is that he always seems to talk about moving Zelda forward rather than repeating the same formulas over and over again, which I do think that we could see that within all of these Zelda games. Like even Tears of the Kingdom, the sequel to Breath of the Wild, it is different and it does stand on its own 2 feet because it did add a lot of new features and still made it a unique game. Pretty much every single Zelda game is different from the last one in the sense of like the art styles, the gameplay, obviously storyline. So this is Nintendo's chance to modernize Ocarina of Time without replacing it, like completely with keeping the original Ocarina of Time as the great game that it is, while making the remake still a great game with just different features. I'm assuming Castletown is going to be a lot bigger. Pretty much everywhere should be bigger. But the thing about Castletown, like, yeah, it was impressive. I think Ocarina of Time, being from the N64, the original game is extremely impressive. But I do believe they are going to expand on Castletown. So basically just make it bigger, make it so you can kind of walk through it, and it's not going to be an immediate, I guess you could say, run through. There should be hopefully more NPCs you could talk to, maybe pick up some side quests, maybe even walk into a lot, if not most of the buildings here. Basically just having like a true city atmosphere. I think that'll go a long way, and I think it'll add a lot of personality to this game as well. Another thing I could see them doing is maybe even extending the storyline, so basically keeping the exact same storyline but adding a little bit of dialogue, or I guess you could say backstory here and there. So maybe like more scenes showing Ganondorf or more Zelda cutscenes, just to kind of give us more backstory, more cutscenes. And I'm not saying I want this game just to be full of cutscenes. I think cutscenes are awesome, but I do want the gameplay of the game specifically to hold up, if that makes sense. Like I don't want them to just do some random hack and slash kind of game and then just all be cutscenes, if that makes sense. I don't think they're gonna do that. I just wanted to make my, I guess, point more specific, if that makes sense. But yeah, the music is probably gonna all be the exact same music, just reorchestrated. There may be a couple new songs added here and there. Something I do think that they're gonna really do in this game as well is really show off how ominous and scary this game could potentially be. You know what I'm saying? Because this game does have some spooky, horror elements to it. So I feel like on a modern day console, they could actually enhance that. Now, I don't think they're going to go too far with that. I wouldn't mind if they did go farther than they did in the original game, though, with the horror horror elements or like the scary kind of spooky vibes that they have going on. I think that'd be pretty exciting, but of course this has to be a game that kids can also play, so they definitely will not go too far into that. I feel like they will make it a little bit more open world. I think they're gonna kind of just expand on everything, all the towns, all the separate areas, even just like the fieldland areas. You know, I feel like they're gonna add maybe little hidden caves, I'm assuming little puzzles and just kind of things to do around the map just to kind of make it that much more engaging, while most of those just being probably optional, like you don't have to do them, it just would give you some extra content, extra things to do within this game. I especially think that because Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom have really conditioned players to just have exploration, and I feel like a lot of modern day open world games are kind of doing the same thing where they're really pushing the exploration side of things. So that's why I could see like Hyrule Field being just massive. And like I said, there has to be things throughout the fields and just, you know, random areas to make it just not so barren and empty, just like Metroid Prime 4. Let's just be honest here, there is a lot of emptiness in that game. I do not think that they will make this as big as Breath of the Wild. I don't think it's going to be nearly the size of that map. I do think it's going to be bigger than the original map, but just not to the scale of Breath of the Wild, and I don't want it to be. I don't want it to be that big. One thing I'm really hoping for this game is for the sword play and just the fighting in this game, or the combat, to be pushed to the next level. I think that would really go a long way. I really hope that the combat overall just gets completely redefined and deepened to the point where it just feels more maybe kind of like a Souls game, if that makes sense. It would just be a fresh experience and obviously would still set it apart from the original Ocarina of Time. And if it is going to be more of an open world game, I think they're going to have to kind of revise the way we do have battles and just fights with random NPCs around the map, because I'm assuming they're going to do that as well. The boss fights obviously are going to be completely reimagined. It's going to look so sick, man. I'm so hyped for that. So like I said with the combat, I think that's going to really show and shine with these boss fights specifically. It's going to make it way more strategic and just pushing it to the upper echelon, because I just think Nintendo have a special relationship with Zelda. I think they just really love Zelda with all of their heart, and they will make this game as good as they possibly can. We do know that it has a very high budget. We had a rumor from like 2024, before the game even was like really leaked, that it has a high budget. Obviously, all video games have high budgets, but specifically for Ocarina of Time, I'm assuming this budget was higher than the average Nintendo game. The camera controls, 100% just gonna be like the average newer video game where you can, you know, move your camera 360 degrees up and down. It's gonna be just like that, 100%. So that's something we're not gonna have to worry about, and I'm really looking forward to that, because the older camera controls, those get exhausting pretty quick. A lot of people didn't really like the water temple stuff, so I think they're going to fix all of the issues that players have had with that. Probably just make it a little bit easier to do, I guess you could say. I think they're going to, just because of the simple fact that the controls are going to be easier, making the key locations more obvious, because I've heard a lot of people say they just kind of get lost in the water temple and it's just kind of confusing. I would love to know your thoughts and what you want to be added to this game, because Ocarina of Time is such an in-depth game, and I just know that there are things that I'm forgetting from the game, and I know that I'm forgetting to talk about some specific ideas or things that would really go a long way in the remake. Just to summarize, I do think the combat's going to be completely overhauled. It's going to be just way more aligned with the modern day, I guess, gaming standard, where it just doesn't feel, I guess, clunky and you could really control it. I do think they're going to really fix a lot of the areas that people struggled with in the original game. I think there's going to be more NPCs. I think some of the areas are going to be really expanded so you could really walk around. And there's somebody lawn mowing right next to me, so hopefully the mic doesn't pick that up, but the video's almost over, thankfully. So they should be doing some sort of Zelda Direct or Treehouse within the next, I don't know, 2 months, I would assume. Maybe July kind of sounds like the most feasible time. And that's when they will actually do a huge reveal showing off the graphics. I'm assuming a lot more of the storyline as well, kind of what to expect. So make sure to leave a like and subscribe so you don't miss that. I will see you in the next one. Peace.